I would say it's 9:30, and it's time for Swiss precise starting time. So welcome to everybody. We are just really being happy to have you again after nearly 1 year with us to the next FortiOS 7.4 What's New session. It's unbelievable, Sylvia. It's already 1 year since we had the last
Yeah,
one. And as I have just seen in a LinkedIn post, it's already the 8th time that we make it together.
it's the 8th time. So we started this What's New series with 5.4 8 years ago. And so I'm really happy to have you here in our 8th version of this one for 7.4. Yeah, that's great, huh?
That's really cool. So we will just start in a no time now with sharing the slide decks and so on. But I would like to really have the pleasure to introduce shortly the speakers. So on my right side, not left side, right side, Sylvia as head of engineering, leading the support team. As a lot of you know, she's also head of the premium ATC, our advanced training center, and she's well decorated as an NSC8. So if not she, who could give us a deep insight into the uh, secrets of the new FortiOS? So I'm very pleased to have you on my side, Sylvia, again.
Thanks, Viktor. Thanks so much. That's really kind of you. And yes, I'm really happy to still work with Fortinet and to introduce all this stuff to you. But I'm also pretty happy that I'm not alone, that Viktor is on my side. Viktor, a long-term Fortinet engineer and sales engineer, and I'm so happy to have him here because all the difficult questions like how is this license working, how is this license working, all those difficult ones are answered by Viktor because I do not understand this stuff. So thanks to have you here and hopefully get really, really nice, good information on this session here.
We will give our best. So I would say I try to start to share the screen. I hope you can see it
Perfect.
now.
Yep.
That looks better than the last time.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe just for your information, as usual, an online session, you are during this webinar muted, but you are heartily invited to put your questions into the Q&A. Please not into the chat area, but in the Q&A, Fragen and Antworten F&A depends on your browser. And we will try to either online answer them directly or later on we will gather the questions and try to answer them later on. As you have seen, that's our self of us maybe a few years ago. I'm not sure. I changed definitely. And this is the agenda for today. So don't worry, I will try to speed up. It's very kind from Sylvia that she gives me some time for giving you on the one hand side, an introduction, of course, which you are in, but mainly the FortiGuard offerings, what happened the last few months in the past, which are related still to the upcoming and now available FortiOS 7.4. And then we will hand over as fast as possible to the real stuff from FortiOS 7.4, what's new, some general information on Sylvia. Then we have a short break. And then, of course, I'm really keen to see then the deep dive, the live demo session. And at the end, as you see, we will have an ending with Q&A again. So I hope you will make it till the end. All right. So I would say, let's just dive into our session. So as usual, you might remember this FortiOS software evolution slide, which is, let's say, the same like every year, James, but we have now 2023. And since Q2, FortiOS 7.4 is generally available. And I was a little bit surprised when I was checking out the product guide, the real stuff, where this kind of information you also can find directly. There is currently no, let's say, bullet points. So I'm quite wondering if the next slide deck will have this upcoming, let's say, information, which I expect in July. But what is quite cool, you see this link to FortiOS 7.4 enhancements, which is in fact a link to the official Fortinet site, where you see what have been, let's say, innovated by Fortinet, and some of the, let's say, highlighted points which Fortinet was just showing us is the span of the Forti Manager. Of course, with 7.4, there are a lot of new features. The entire hybrid mesh firewalling, a secure SD-WAN, which is evolving. We see also the integration with a single vendor SASE solution from Fortinet up to the Zero Trust Network Access integration. And of course, just rounding up the entire secure wireless LAN, wide area network, and switching portfolio from Fortinet. So just have a look on this link. We will hand out the slide deck after these sessions. As usual, it's sometimes a little bit special that Fortinet changes over the time scale certain bundlings of the products, and this happened as well, like every year nearly. We still have the well-known advanced threat persistent bundle ATP, which is quite good for internal segmentation use cases, containing the IPS database updates and advanced malware protection, AMP. You see this bullet points on the left side. So you have the main topic, and then you have intended the subtopics, what is covered with AMP, so antivirus, sandbox detection, mobile malware, and outbreak prevention. What we must say is our bread and butter bundle is the UTP, Unified Threat Protection Bundle, mainly because a lot of the firewalls are used as perimeter firewalls. As an addition to the ATP bundle, you have the web security, which has been in the last year a little bit pimped. So we have additional video content filtering as add-on, artificial intelligence in the background, and so on. So this is the well-known UTP bundle. And if you combine the UTP functionality with the Fortigate cloud management, analyze, and log retention features, we had till last month, in fact, the so-called SMB bundle, and we have been surprised by the end of order that it was removed per Q2 from the price list. But still, the good news, in fact, it was just a bundled service, the UTP plus this Fortigate cloud management a la carte service. And of course, this a la carte service is still available, so no worries. Everybody who has started to use the SMB bundle still can extend the current services, and it's still a very important part of the NOx services. And last but not least, of course, the big bundle, the enterprise protection bundle. You have to be aware that, as you see in the bullet points, of course, not everything is covered anymore. We had in the past even an 360 protection bundle, which have the SOC services, mainly the Forti Manager and Forti Analyzer Cloud. And as you will see, this is something which was removed from the price as well. Another point which is quite important to highlight, below all of these bundles, the FortiCare is the foundation. So FortiCare contains, in fact, the so-called support services, which gives you the right to open support tickets, to make an advanced replacement RMA service, and of course, officially use the latest and greatest firmware updates. And as you might see, there is also an a la carte individual add-on, the eLight. I will just give you an idea in the next slide. But what I would like also to highlight is that in this FortiCare, by side of this support and RMA stuff, there is the base services, which are also a very important foundation. So you have the application control up to the dynamic DNS support, which is then included in all of these bundles or in the FortiCare as such. So as I just highlighted, the 360 protection bundle was removed in Q1. We already told that in the last update. The important part is the FortiManager Cloud is still available as a la carte, and the FortiAnalyzer Cloud got additionally, in fact, a flavor with and without SOC as a service. So this is something which was a change in the last few months. And one of the biggest, let's say, points which I would like to highlight, if you look for FortiAnalyzer and FortiManager Cloud, you do not need anymore the so-called FortiCloud Premium account license anymore. This was discontinued since Q3 last year. There is still one use or two use cases. If you have FortiSandbox in the cloud and FortiSOAR, there are cloud versions where this FortiCloud Premium SKU is in this combination still available and needed. For further information, please check out our BOLL sales blog, and I also put in some links to the most updated changes. We try to update also older sales blog articles with the current changes. So have a look on our sales blog as well. So as I mentioned, the FortiCare itself, some of you will remember the 8x5. This was removed, in fact, by the premium naming, and the formerly known ASC support got the new name Elite. Some important thing to remember, the ticket routing. If you have a premium, it is normally handled by the core tech team and might be also routed to the distribution, depending on the supply chain. But the Elite, the higher, more valuable service, has in fact a direct touch, depending on the products, to the core tech or an enhanced tech team. And what is also quite worth to mention is, in fact, the revised SLA targets you see for Fortigate Elite stuff. You have much shorter response times depending on the severity of your issues, as well for the additional stuff. Some additional information in more detail you can find in our German sales blog article, Einführung von FortiCare Essential Premium and Elite. And of course, for our colleagues from the Romandie, we have that also in a French version. Just a little side note, this Essential, which is also something for small products, Fortigate and FortiWi-Fi boxes, desktop models only, is not something which we are really recommending. It's also not a part of the bundle service. It's an a la carte service. If you have really much lower expectations, but this is something we are not really seeing in Switzerland. So if you have a look for all this kind of fancy SKUs, here's a summary of what kind of a la carte services are available by side of on an example of a Fortigate hardware. You can have the FortiCare support and all of these services individually. Be aware that the bundle is always cheaper as if you buy the services individually. I would like to highlight the Fortigate Cloud. So the Fortigate Cloud Management analyzes log retention service, which is still available, not anymore as an SMB bundle, but as a la carte. The FortiAnalyzer Cloud, this is then, in fact, the new service without the SOC as a service portion, which is still available. And for both, you do not need anymore the premium account license. What is something I think quite a fancy and an interesting a la carte service, which is not included in all bundles, is the Security Fabric Rating and Compliance service, which gives you an indication of recommended configuration steps and how you are rated compared to your industry standards locally or globally, also PCI compliance and so on. This could be also quite an interesting service to show the management where we stay with our configuration. Last but not least, something which is also quite an healthy service is the FortiConverter migration service. This is included in the enterprise bundle, and it's worth to buy it as well with the other bundles. If you migrate either from an existing older Fortigate to a new Fortigate, or even if you have other vendors. I will just show a short slide with a bigger overview. And last but not least, if you have huge deployments where you have a lot of serial numbers which you would like to have a kind of zero-touch provisioning handout, think about to indicate that toward us, toward the Fortinet sales representative. We need an at the purchase order a special SKU, and then all of these serial hardware numbers will be registered in the Forti cloud, so you can easily then access this kind of serial numbers for zero-touch provisioning. And last but not least, something people are sometimes also looking for, if the Forti Analyzer Cloud log capacity is not enough, you need it for the devices per individual device. But if this is not enough, you have a so-called top-up where you can add 550 or even 500 gig storage per day as an add-on on the cloud level. And what you will discover is there is no Forti Manager Cloud a la carte service anymore. This is also a centralized service which have no per device SKU anymore. All right, so the FortiGuard converter service, this is something which has also something which is in the FortiOS 7.4 portion, which Sylvia will show you, that you can do some fancy stuff out of the GUI. But normally the way is that you buy this a la carte service, and you can upload from your current existing Fortigate the configuration to a web portal, and with that you can migrate it to a target system with a target OS, and this simplifies the entire migration process. There are a lot of things automated. So you see here also for your reference the advantages. And of course, there's also the possibility that you even could use third-party firewall configurations, that you can hand over this to the FortiConverter service. There is a Windows-based license which is then valid for 1 year. Then you can really use it for as much as possible FortiConverter service issues. But if you do it just case by case, the web version is the way to go, and it's quite cheap. Yeah, some frequent asked questions regarding the services, just as a reference. You can buy, as I mentioned, the services either as individual services or as bundle services. If you renew the services and you buy it in our web shop, you have to register them yourself. If we make an offer where we have a so-called quote, a renewal quote, this will then normally automatically registered behind the serial numbers, which you have to always provide to us. And finally, if you have multiple expiration dates which you would like to put together to a common synchronized expiration date, you can ask for a call-term quote. So then will everything, let's say, calculated pro rata temporis to the wished new expiration date. So reach out to our sales department, sales@boll.ch, if you would like to have this kind of synchronized service. And of course, quite an interesting source are the ordering guides. And there's also an ordering guide regarding FortiGuard security service. Just have a look. Here is the link to this interesting documentation. Something which was also a big change in the last couple of months was the change on the 6th of February, where Fortinet decided to make a new, let's say, Forticare and FortiGuard service contract grace period change. Sounds a little complicated. A complicated thing, long story short, the old service was that we had 100 days for hardware bundled stuff, which was then auto-activated after 100 days. Some of you might remember that if you had a hardware separated from the service, not a bundle, then you had up to 365 days time to, let's say, marry the hardware serial number with the service. This is something which Fortinet changed since beginning of February. So the new auto start is not 100 but 90 days, if not previously registered. And the big change, I think, is for Fortigate appliances, that if you have a Fortigate, even in a hardware only and separated service manner, even that will start after 90 days, if not previously registered. The good news is that for all other products, even the Fortigate VMs, we have still 365 days, but please do not take longer than the 364 days, because if you are a 1 day behind the so-called when it's generated, the service is generated, and you miss this time frame, it will be auto-activated, and if you have just 1 year service, it will backdate it to the creation date for 1 year, so you lose the entire service then at that moment. So this is something you have to check out. The further information regarding Fortinet grace period policy in the Fortinet partner portal. There are some footnotes as well in our sales book. I made a German version of the changes, and I think there's even a French version. Okay, a little teaser. As you might remember, we have from time to time, by side of the Fortinet trade up, where you can, in the case that you have an end of order product, a Fortinet product, replace it with a new Fortinet product. Also this competitive trade-in campaign running, and this will run still end of September. And if you have any third-party existing installation, so the first installation where you would like to really replace that according to this competitive trade-in promo conditions, you find the link just in the presentation. Then you can really have a commercial advantage to make the change from a third party to a Fortinet solution very attractive. There are several sets, firewall only, as well as fabric set. So please check out the documentation. So that was a little bit the introduction about the, let's say, licensing stuff and some commercial part. And I would say I'm not too bad in time. I will shortly go into some product news, and I hope that you will find this interesting as well. So one of the things you discovered last year, it was in Q3, so just short after the summer break, that Fortinet had a severe, let's say, shortage of chips in several flavors. And what was very surprising, that even the Fortigate 60F, 61F series have been running out of stock for a very short period of time. And because Fortinet was already expecting that, there was this decision that Fortinet really introduced and planned kind of a twin of the Fortigate 60F series, and introduced the Fortigate 70F, 71F series due to the supply chain issues, with a different chipset, but still the same SOC 4. And what I would like to highlight is that this 70 series is quite thrilling from my point of view, because there's one big difference. And this is that it has, from the 70 series and on, you have 4 gig RAM instead of the 2 gig RAM, which is in the 40 and the 60F series, as one of the points we discovered at the very early stage, that we have some conserved issues, conserved mode. This is resolved now, but the 70F is very promising because it has doubled the RAM, and it's not much more expensive than the 60F. Okay, so if you are planning for small business remote offices, this is really something which I heartily recommend, especially since last Friday we even got now the 7.2 FortiOS released, 7.2.5. More information you will get from Sylvia. Of course, 7.4 is also supported. All right. If you are more in the mission critical industrial environment, this is also quite a good news. Fortinet has enriched their product offering with a Dean mount rugged series. So you have 2 flavors. One is the 70F as it is, and an additional one which has a 3G, 4G. Attention, it's not a wireless version, it is a 3G, 4G version. And of course, depending where you have to place it, makes sense or not. If you have not really good 3G, 4G, let's say, a point behind, maybe in a rack, you would like to put it in a more better region, you can still use some Forti extender to stretch the reach of 3G, 4G, 5G. But if you need an integrated solution, this is the way to go. This is for mission critical industrial environment, which has quite the same promising features like the normal 70 brothers. What was a little bit a misery was the 400F, which is really a very cool mid-range product. It was announced in Q2, and then it was removed even in a short period because they had then this chip shortage again. But then finally in Q4, the 400F series, has been reintroduced, and we already shipped plenty of them. This is quite a very interesting product as a replacement for the formerly 300, 400, even 500 and 600 series, because it contains in total 8 10 gig ports. So you have 4 normal 10 gig SFP plus and 4 so-called ultra low latency slots. So in total 8 SFP plus, and it's a beast if you look on the firewall throughput and the threat protection throughput numbers. There is even a bigger brother. This is the 600F, which has, beside of the 10 gig, even 4 25 gig slots, which can be polluted. And these are really then the replacements for mainly the 500E, 600Es, and even you could replace the 800 series with that beast. It's also something which is, as you see, with redundant power supplies and so on. It's a very interesting and promising product. As well, in Q4, there was an 1000F introduced, so a 2 Hive unit, which even has 100 gig QSFP28 slots. As you see in the icons, there are some special specifications which are very up to date, and I show you another product which you will currently not found on the price list today, but next week will be the 900G and the 901G series introduced. So stay tuned. Mid Q2, so next week, we will have this new 900 series, and this is also a product which has even higher number than the 600, and also contains the 4 times 10 gig and 4 times 25 gig SFP plus and QSFP28 slots. What you might see in the icons, there are some shortages like TPM, Trusted Platform Module. So this is a chipset which is in the mid-range and high range, which the Fortigate 9 G series features a dedicated module that hardens physical networking appliances by generating, storing, and authenticating cryptographic keys. So it's a hardware-based security mechanism and protect against malicious software and phishing attacks. So this is implemented in this new mid-range series. The next chip, which is also a highlight, is the MP7, the network processor, which operates inline to the stream to deliver unmatched performance, scalability for critical network functions. So this is something which is really introduced with first box was, I think, the 1800F. It has also some additional licensing. If you need even more throughput, you have a hyperscale firewall license, which accelerates the session setup and also unlocks some ultra low latency functions. You have the industry leading performance for VPN, and which is also quite cool, VXLAN is terminated in hardware. So it's hardware logging, and also the so-called not just jumbo frames, but elephant frames are supported in hardware. What is also to highlight is the CP9. This is the ninth flavor of the content processor, which acts as a co-processor and offloads resource-intensive processing of security functions. So especially if you have SSL, TSL 1.3 decryption and security functions, that will be delivered. It makes pattern matching, acceleration, and fast inspection possible. And also in IPS, it makes a pre-scan and pre-match. So this is quite an offloader of the CPU. And last but not least, you see this again, 4-port ultra low latency slots, which is an hardware architecture that accesses the network processor on a direct connected interface. So additional informations I show you in the hardware schematics. Please be aware this is in fact a non-disclosure slide, so don't share that without further notice with Fortinet, but for partners internal you can use it. This is, by the way, something you have to ask at Fortinet Andy Tischer. He is making regular updates in the forum where the latest and greatest product guide and hardware schematics are updated and uploaded. And as you can see, here we have this 4 ultra low latency 25, 10 gig SFP, 28 SFP plus ports, which are in this case directly connected to the network processor. So you do not need special transceivers. So it's really something relying on the internal architecture. And this hardware architecture, which really gives them a direct connection to the network processor, has some things you have to be aware of. So if you have no integrated switch fabric in between, it might be that depending on the architecture, when you have multiple network processes, that some link aggregation is not possible to be built between ports which are not on the same network processor terminated. In this case, it's the same network processor, so these 4 ultra low latency ports can be combined to link aggregation. Also, if you have this kind of network processors where you have multiple ports on different network processors, the traffic flowing between them might hit the CPU. So please watch out for the hardware schematics depending on the product you are using, and also reach out for support from Fortinet side or ask us if you need further information regarding this, especially if you are building link aggregation over different ports on different network processes. Yeah, so as a reference, you see here now these new products. side by side from the mid-range, so the 600F and the new 900F. If you look on the 1000F, these are the numbers for your reference. Of course, you find all the details in the data sheets as well, or in the product matrix. And of course, the Fortigate 1800F, which is still a beast, and even getting more than a beast, because there is a special news I would like to share with you. The breaking news is that the new specifications containing 4x100 gig interfaces, the old specifications contained only 4x40 gig QSFP28 slots, and with the new specifications, which is already shared in the data sheet, you will discover this new hardware will containing 4x100 gig capable slots. So this will also be, let's say, remarked by the face plate, which have to be updated with the units. So I would say current units will not be capable to handle 100 gig, but the new generation, which we are expecting soon, will have this 100 gig slots. Maybe before I jump to the access points, some words around what you have to consider if you select the Fortigate. Of course, by side of the security requirements, how do you use it as an internal segmentation, perimeter firewall, in industrial environment, and so on. This gives you then an idea what kind of services you would need. You have to watch out the throughput numbers, not just the firewall numbers, but also the threat protection mixes. Of course, a part is the interface connectivity. What kind of interfaces do I need and do I have? Of course, redundancy is always something you have to consider. How many WAN ports do the box has? What about power supplies? I have to check the maximum numbers of IPsec VPN tunnels and devices supported, especially the numbers, the max values for FortiSwitch and access points or tokens if you use this kind of extended functionality. Yeah, so I'm getting close and close to my end, Sylvia. The product news also contained, of course, some new Forti access points, which are worth to mention is the 431 and 433G. These have been introduced by end of last year. This has on the third radio 6E capabilities. So this means we have 6 gigahertz, which is really then for Wi-Fi only. You have no interference with other mediums like in the 2.4 gigahertz, which is not really recommended anymore. And we had quite a cool morning session regarding Forti access point and switches. These have been also let's say, gathered the information. If somebody's interested in this handout, you maybe can write in the Q&A your name, that we can send this information as well to you. What is something you have to consider as well is, of course, this kind of beasts of wireless speed need, of course, enough power to bring the power to the wired part, and this high density access points, which have 4x4 MIMOs, 3 radios, have multi-gig interfaces, 2.5 gig interface internally. And of course, there's also something you have to consider is the power profiles. Depending how you feed these access points, you have 3 different modes. And of course, what you would like to gain is the full mode. And because these access points are consuming nearly 32 watt, an AF single feed doesn't power up the entire functionality. So if you have just 1 times the AT as PoE mode, you have then the high mode. Please be aware of that. What are then the drawbacks? If you would like to go for the full speed, you need either AF and AT. Normally you have a switch which is 80 capable. You have then 2 times 80, but then you need 2 wires, so link aggregation to the switch, or you have a single strip where you have then a 802.3 BT. This is the 60 watt specification, or of course the power supply which can be still used. So this is in fact something, please also, if you need more information, read our BOLL Tech blog article, which is also a very interesting explanation out there for different topics. Especially in this case, we have also an article how to correctly power this kind of access point series. There is a smaller brother which is also available. This is the 2x2 MIMO version, also 3 radios. This has less power consumption needs, so this is not critical, and this is in fact also a very interesting product just for your record. Okay, so here is an overview of all existing wireless access points out there. Worth to mention is, of course, the normal Wi-Fi 6 is not dead. We have a lot of projects still running with 802.11ax Wi-Fi 6, which then covers the 2.4 and the 5 gig frequencies. If you would like to be prepared for the 6 gigahertz, you need the G series. All right. So let's come to the summary of the advantages which are provided by all this stuff I presented. I would say one of the points which is really making the key differentiation is the security processes which Fortinet invents themselves, which gives you a really superior next generation firewall and SD-WAN performance and efficiency. You have the FortiOS, which ties all the security fabric, security network components together. This will be now the next part. And of course, also one of the parts which is quite important is the entire security fabric, where you can really extend not just firewall function, but you can have optimized application availability over SD-WAN, redundancy up to SD branch, where you can implement switches and access points as well. And as you can see, the journey goes on. We have with Fortinet, in fact, a single vendor SASE solution, which also has the underlying FortiOS, as you know it, up to the zero trust network access functionalities, which runs up the entire solution. So I would say this is the part from me, and I hand over to Sylvia. I stop it.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Viktor. That's great. You're good in time. Wow. A little bit surprised.
Thank you.
Sorry. You're welcome. But no, there's still one question regarding the slides, regarding the auto activation. Maybe we can answer this one right now. So
Yeah.
Roland is asking, reducing the auto activation time is causing issues for bulk orders not delivered together, especially hardware and licenses, I think. So Fortinet
Yes.
should be aware of this and allow an exception in such cases. Do you have any information on this situation, if hardware and licenses are not delivered at the same time?
Yeah, this is a very important question, and it's not so easy to answer in the way that we have a single solution. One thing which I would like to emphasize is, as I mentioned, if you know that we have several flavor of products which have difficulties with estimate time of arrival, and we are relying on them, there is one way that in the purchase order, pre-purchase order stage, we have to ask for a so-called lag extension. So this is an auto activation delay. Instead of this 90 days, we can extend this up to 180 days. So we have then a half a year of time period. So this is the official way how long-term projects have to be indicated toward Fortinet. Yeah, this is one possibility to ask for a lag extension, which we have to ask at the Fortinet responsible accounter, who has then to put this request toward the finance and need to get an approval internally. It's not automatically done. And if you run into issues, we really try to help, but there is no official statement. As you see, this grace period change is really, let's say, written black on white and documented on the partner portal. And yeah, I would say this is really something, it's not so easy. If you run into this, head out to us. We have then to have a discussion with the Fortinet sales team. And currently we are investigating on certain issues where we had this auto activation, even with 365-day backdating and losing the entire service. There is no easy answer. So this is case by case handled, and it's a little bit annoying. But I think the pressure is not just here. We had a short discussion with Fortinet a few weeks ago in our quarterly business review, and this is worldwide something Fortinet gets this feedback. This is not really resolvable for the moment by changing the philosophy and the policy, but case by case we have then to try and to reach out to Fortinet. Sorry, not having better information to that.
Okay, but anyway, thanks so much and for making aware about this situation. Okay, so thanks for this part, Viktor, and so I will take over with some other news. I will share my screen. I think you can see it right now. Okay, perfect. So before I'm going to start, unfortunately, I have to share other news, bad news. I hate this, you can imagine, but I think you should be aware if you're not already be aware about this. Fortinet has released this night the new cert messages. You will see, you can find, all of you can find those cert messages about at fortigate.com/cert, or you go to cert to the advisories. So this month in June, let me make a filter on June. We have one critical FortiOS vulnerability open. We have a heap overflow in the SSL VPN pre-authentication. Vulnerable versions. FortiOS, yeah, the right one. All major and minor FortiOS versions. Only 7.4 is not affected. So I do not want to emphasize to install 7.4 because of this. No, please install the patch releases, which have been released last week. So SSL VPN is vulnerable. If you're running SSL VPN on your FortiGates, and which are open to the internet, and you're running not 7.2.5 or 7.0.12, then you are vulnerable. Please update your FortiGates. So not now, later on after the session. Do not leave the session. I'm sorry. No, sorry that I'm laughing. This is nothing we should laugh about. It's an issue, and yeah, please make sure that you can update your firewalls as soon as possible, or disable SSL VPN if you do not need it. This is the major issue. I've already been asked how to get information on those issues in a timely manner. So what we done at BOLL Engineering, what we have done is we have created a mail list. You can subscribe for this newsletter. So we have a Fortinet firmware newsletter, but also if you go on our website to support infos, you will see the Fortinet CERT newsletter. You can subscribe here, and as soon as there are some new CERT messages, you're getting informed by email. You can do it with this email, or on the other hand, if you go to our blog, blog.boll.ch, we are informing about such issues, of course, as well. So our newest blog entry is here. You will find more information, and we will update those information with news when we get them to publish them, and you can register for email here as well. So you can here this link, you can register for the newsletter so you are getting informed once there's a new message on our blog. Okay, so this has nothing to do with 7.4, but I just wanted to make sure that you are well aware about this information. So if you need to take some actions, please do this. Okay, so I'm going to close this. And so now we can start with our presentation. So 7.4, the first thing I always looking at is which models are sacrificed by this version. So are there any Fortigate models that do not support the new version? And unfortunately, yes, we have 2 models that are not supported with 7.4 anymore. This is the Fortigate 100E series and the Fortigate 1500D series. Both of them are not supported in 7.4 anymore. These are some older models. Both had their end of order day in 2 years ago in 21, but they are still supported. You can run them for many years. I think end of support is 26, but you have to stay with 7.2. There's no 7.4 support. On the other hand, just to inform you, last week 7.2.5 has been released, not only with a patch update for the security issue I've talked about, but also for the new versions for the 60F and 400/600F. Now we have firmware for those models 6.0, 6.2, and 7.0, 7.2, and 7.4 as well. There are other NP7 devices like the 1000F and like the 3200 and 3700. Unfortunately, we have only special builds for them in 7.0 right now, but we will soon get updates with the next patch release. So 7.2.6 and 7.4.1 is planned, where you get images for those models as well. Okay. So this is the information about the supported Fortigate models for 7.4. And yeah, regarding 7.4, do you have to update right now? No, please do not update to 7.4 right now, at least not to your productive devices or the customer devices. If you have a lab or running this, running a Fortigate at home, of course, yeah, it's always great to play with this new version. But I just wanted to give you information about the end of support date of the former releases like 7.2 and 7.0. So first of all, please make sure, please note that 6.2 is already in end of engineering support and gets out of support end of September, end of summer this year. So 6.2 is not supported starting end of September anymore. 6.4 is still supported till 24, end of September 24, but we are already out of engineering support. This means that you do not get any bug fixes except for security patches, like the one we had seen in the, a few minutes ago. We will get updates for 6.4, and in this case, Fortinet also patches 6.2 and also 6.0, just by the way. Okay, so 7.0 and 7.2, here we are pretty fine. We are not in end of engineering support for it until March next year. And end of support is in 25, 26. And yeah, 7.4, which has still been released. There's one funny thing. I'm not sure if you have noted this. Normally, Fortinet are releasing minor and major releases always in the end of March. For some reason, 7.4 was released a little bit later. I'm not sure why, but I'm pretty happy to see this because I hate this just releasing because it's end of March, no matter if it's if the version is already good or finished or not. So I'm happy that Fortinet takes some time to get a maybe more stable version whatsoever. Okay, so 7.4. Yes, if you want to upgrade, make sure that you follow the upgrade path. But to be honest, this is not necessary to mention at all, because if you're upgrading via the web UI, at least with 7.2, starting with 7.2, you have an automatic upgrade following the upgrade path. Anyway, if you're not running 7.2 and you want to upgrade, let's say you are starting at 6.2.15, you have to do several steps to get to 7.4. So the rule of thumb is just take the latest patch release of every minor or major version. So take the latest patch release from 6.4.13, then upgrade to 7.0.12 and then to 7.2.5 and so on. So you can verify the upgrade path on the support website from Fortinet. You already know this. Okay, if you want to update directly, you can do this with 7.2.3, 4 and patch 5. Here you can update directly. If you have 7.2.2 running with patch release 2, you have to make one step in between. One of those, fine. Okay, this is just for your information if you want to upgrade. Some final remarks regarding compatibility. FortiManager, if you're running FortiManager, make sure that FortiManager is updated to 7.4 before you upgrade your Fortigate to 7.4, because only FortiManager 7.4 is supporting FortiOS 7.4. And by the way, FortiManager 7.4 is only supporting FortiOS 7.0 to 7.4. So if you are running a Fortigate with 6.4, please do not upgrade your FortiManager to 7.4, because then the 6.4 is not supported. The FortiOS 6.4 is not supported anymore. If you want to have more information on this, just have a look at the compatibility matrix on the documentation website from Fortinet. There you will find all the information. Just by the way, the new patches, which has been released last week, are not supported by FortiManager 7.40. But 7.41 for the FortiManager is expected soon. So all the 7 versions from FortiOS are supported. Regarding compatibility with FortiAPs, there's one thing which needs to be noted with 7.4. 7.4 is not supporting the C models anymore. So if you're running a access point 321C and you update to 7.4, unfortunately no support anymore. FortiOS 7.4 is supporting all E, F, and G models and the universal models, but FortiOS 7.4 is not supporting the C models. Okay, just to make sure that you know this information. Okay,
Sylvia,
so yes.
Sorry, just a short question which was raised from René. That your information was that 7.4.0 release is not recommended for production environment, but one should wait for at least 2 or more updates. In what time intervals are patches releases released? Yeah, okay, so there are 2 questions. In what time interval are patch releases released? There, I do not know, I'm not aware that there's a fixed time interval. They are releases when needed or when there are enough bug fixes or new features. So I don't think that there's a fixed interval for the patch releases. This is the second question. The first one, yes, 7.4.0 is not recommended for productive environments. And I would say that even patch 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever is not recommended. So why did I say this? So what is Fortinet doing? Fortinet is releasing a new major or minor release. So just for the wording, a major release is the first number, like 7
or 6 that are major releases, and the second number like 7.2 or 7.4 that are minor releases, and the third one is the patch release, of course. So when Fortinet is releasing a new minor release, let's say 7.2, 7.2.0 was released last year with new features. With 7.2.1 and 7.2.4 and 7.2.5, they are still new feature release. So they are still releasing new feature in the patch releases 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 and 5 as well. And as long as there are new features in the release, the probability to have an issue there, of course, is there. So if you want to have a stable release, wait for a patch release where we only have bug fixes. So Fortinet is starting with 7.2. Fortinet is distinguishing those releases with an F for feature release or an M like mature release. So I will show you an example. Let's have a look at, now I'm I'm taking this one. I think this one is fine. Okay, so this box is a box from our lab, and this is a 7.2.5, and here in the brackets you see the feature. As long as it's feature, you know that there are still new features in this patch release, and maybe this can impact stability. If there's an M or you see mature, then you know, okay, this one is only bug fixing the previous releases, and then the version is getting more stable. So it depends on. So if you need a new feature, of course, then you have to install it, even though it's a feature release. If your priority is maturity or stability, then wait for patch releases that are only have bug fixes and that are not introducing a new feature. Okay, so what is recommended depends on your situation. If you need the new feature, then you have to install it. If you do not need the feature, if your priority is stability, then wait for a mature patch release. Okay. So thanks for asking. This is really, really important, especially because when I'm not sitting in some Zoom sessions or something like this, I'm helping in the support line of BOLL Engineering, and we always, when a new version like 7.4 is released, we know next day we will have a lot of support calls because something is not working with the new version, because some people are already installing the latest, greatest version. Okay, so there's another question. Is it correct that Fortinet is publishing the patches every 13th day of the month? Should we plan the monthly installation of bug fix on every 13th of the month? I'm not sure. I haven't heard about this. Maybe this is a new rule Fortinet has introduced, but I do not know if there's a new fixed schedule for patch releases. To be honest, I do not hope so, especially if we are talking about security patches. Then I want to have them as soon as possible, and I do not want to wait on a specific day of the month. Yeah, so sorry, Christian, but I will ask. So maybe there's a new rule at Fortinet. Okay, cool. So yes, now we have 1 hour talking, and I think before we are starting with a live demo of the new features in 7.4, let's have a short break to give you the possibility to take another cup of coffee. Me too. To have another break, take a cigarette, whatever. And then I would say we will meet again in 5 minutes. This will be, let me have a look. What is the time right now? 40? Should we start at 40? So we will break, sorry, we will break until 10:40. Only 6 minutes. Hope this is enough time, and then we will see again. Okay, see you soon. not anymore. Okay. I hope you all grabbed a new fresh coffee for the next hour of live demonstration. And I'm pretty happy that we did not lose too many participants during this break. So we can start with the live demonstration. Before I'm going to start, just a few words. As I said before the break, Fortinet is releasing new features, not only in the 0 patch, but also in the first, second, third, and so on patch as well. In the first patches of a new minor or major release, we will find more new features. And the same has happened to 7.2. So with 7.2.1 and 7.2.4 especially, there were released a lot of new feature too. And I didn't mention them in our last year What's New session because I just introduced the 7.2.0 features because I haven't been aware that there will be more feature coming in the upcoming patch releases. So what I'm doing today, I'm not showing the new 7.4 features, but I will also introduce some of the 7.2.1 and 7.2.4 features as well. I will always mention if the feature is being released in a 7.2 or 7.5 release, but just to give you the information, it's not only a 7.4, but also a 7.2.1 and 7.2.4 live demo. Okay, so let's start. And first of all, I just want to give you the information that starting with 7.2.1, the trial version for the Fortigate VMs have changed. So starting with 7.2.1, you can install a permanent trial version of a Fortigate. So install a VM, a Fortigate VM with 7.2.1, and you have a permanent license, not only a 40-day license. Of course, there are some limitations for this trial license. So one limitation is that you can only run one evaluation license or evaluation Fortigate per FortiCare account. So if you want to have more, you should create a new account. No, I didn't say this. Did I? No, I didn't. Okay, so just only one free VM, Fortigate VM per FortiCare account. Of course, there's no support on those trial Fortigates. You can run this evaluation version only with one CPU and 2 gig memory. And this is a limitation, a real limitation. You can only work with 3 interfaces, 3 firewalls, and 3 routes in this configuration. And only 2 VDOMs are supported. And we only have low encryption, except for the web UI access and the FortiManager communication. So IPsec and so on is only running with low encryption because it's an evaluation, a trial version. But it's not limited to 40 days. You can run it longer, permanent. Okay, and the same is for the FortiManager and FortiAnalyzer as well. Okay, so this is starting with 7.2.1. Okay, and yeah, now one of the major news for 7.4. Oh no, this is just how to set up the trial. This is pretty easy. I'm sorry. If you want to set up this permanent evaluation license, just start the new license and tick the evaluation license, and then you are there. Sorry. What I wanted to show is this. Starting with 7.4, the firmware is controlling your FortiCare license when upgrading to another major or minor version, which means starting with 7.4, you are not allowed, you haven't been allowed before, but you're not able to upgrade to a 7.6, this is another minor release, or to 8.0 without a valid support contract. If you're running 7.4, let's say 0, and you do not have a valid support contract, you still can, and you are allowed to upgrade patch releases. So you can upgrade to 7.4.1 and 2 and so on. But if you want to go to 7.6 or to 8.0 or something like this, and you want to upgrade, you will get an information that your license is expired and that you are not allowed to upgrade. So you have to sell FortiCares to your customers if they want to upgrade. So this is something which is starting with 7.4. So if you're running 7.2, you do not have a support contract. You can still upgrade to 7.4, but once you are on 7.4, you're not able to upgrade to 7.6 or 8.0 without a support contract. Okay, so this is something which is pretty new in 7.4. Okay, so anyway, let's have a look at 7.4 device. Take this one. So this is a new 7.4 device, and the first thing we see, and you know this from the former releases, there's a setup wizard, an initial setup wizard, and you have to run through this. No, you do not have to run through this, but there's one thing which is new. This is a migrate config to FortiConverter. Viktor has already told about, introduced this feature. We have a new license, a one-time converter license to convert the configuration of an older firmware version or of another model to a configuration which can be installed on a newer firmware or a newer version. And this one can be done more or less automatically. So if you want to, let's say you have an old device running 7.0 or 6.4 or 6.2, whatever, and you want to replace this device with a new 7.4 Fortigate, let's say a 900G, one of the pretty new ones, you can do this with the setup. So what you have to do in this case, you have to make sure that both of the FortiGates have internet access and that both, oh, sorry, that's nothing I wanted to show, sorry. You have to make sure that both of the FortiGates have internet access and that both FortiGates are registered within the same FortiGuard account. In this case, you can just create the FortiConverter ticket with this setup wizard just by uploading the backup file of the former device or by import this directly from the running older device. This is fancy. No, this is strange. So the old box is still running. You can ask the FortiConverter tool to take this config, to convert it to this version running on this FortiGate, and then to import it here. So how is this working? Of course, this is not working by default. So the other device, of course, does not allow the access from the FortiConverter ticket, but you can allow it. And this is a new feature as well. I'm going to another device, let's say this 60E here, which is running 7.4 as well. Okay, this is just a message to my colleagues. Okay, if you go to System Settings, here in the end, you have this allow FortiConverter to obtain a config file once, and you can enable this. In this case, a FortiConverter ticket is allowed to take the config from this device, strange, to convert it and to prepare it for the new device. Okay, this is just a small feature. I'm not sure if this is really used or not, but just to give you this information. So normally we do not want to do this here. We just skip this FortiConverter and then it's fine. Okay, so what's new with 7.4? Finally, we can start. So the first thing you can see, everything is getting a little bit more colorful. The dashboard has more animations and graphics and so on. Yeah. So it's said that the widgets here should work a little bit faster and use less resources. That's fine. But yeah, it's only the look and feel. It's something cosmetic which has been done here on the dashboard. And for example, what's new, really new, have a look here at the question mark. So here's something I want to introduce, the Forti Answers. I'm not sure if you already know this because this is nothing new. Forti Answers is a website to a Fortinet forum. So if you have questions for some configurations or anything, maybe have a look on Forti Answers, answer.fortinet.com, and you will see a lot of questions, answers. You can search on it and so on. You can register, or you can log in with the same Fortinet support account you're running for the support portal, and you can ask questions by yourself as well. So this is nothing new, but you can link it directly from here. So maybe you have seen this before in 7.2. In 7.2, we already had, let me show you something. Let me here. No, it's not here. It's here. Yeah. We have some hot questions at Forti Answers for specific topics. This is something nice. If you have questions here, maybe another one had this question as well, and already asked it on Forti Answers, and you can get the link to those questions and answers. Okay. So another thing which is really new here is this FortiCare debug report. So sometimes I'm not sure if you had opened a support case with Fortinet or with us at BOLL. Sometimes we are asking for the debug log, and you will find the debug log under System Settings and so on. And now it's a little bit more easier to reach this debug log. You can just click on it, and then the debug log is prepared, and it can be downloaded on this website. Yeah. It's already there, and then this debug log can be sent via email or support ticket, whatever. And when we are talking about support, there's another new feature I wanted to show you here at the backup. If you go to backup, configuration backup, you will have a password mask. If support is asking for a support file, or if we are asking you for a backup file of your configuration, if there are some issues and we want to see the configuration, you have to send this config file, and it must be unencrypted, because if it's encrypted, we cannot read it. So you have to send it unencrypted. And normally the passwords in this file are encrypted, of course, but with this password mask, you are replacing the encrypted passwords. And this is really nice for sending them to a support portal or wherever. So if you are doing this, let's show you how this is working. If you're creating a backup with a password mask, yes, yeah, I have to switch. Oops, where is it? Yeah. I'm sorry. Then I have to do it like this. Now you can see it here. This is the backup file, unencrypted, as you can see. And now if you're searching for, let's say, password, now the password from an administrator, for example, is replaced with this Fortinet password mask. And the same for everything else which contain passwords or key. For example, if you're looking for a private key, if you have some certificates, even the private keys of the certificates are replaced with this mask. So of course, with this config file, you cannot work anymore. You cannot restore it to a, yes, of course you can restore it, but you're losing all the pre-shared keys and so on. But this one is a little bit more secure to send it to a support portal with this password mask. So just think about this feature when you have to send a config somewhere else. Okay, so what else is new? Yes. There's another question regarding the FortiConverter service. How long does it take? It's not minutes. It's not an automatic service. It's a manual service by Fortinet support. So it takes a few days. Yeah. And if you're running the FortiConverter through this wizard and you have started it, you just let me enlarge this again. It's a little bit easier. You will find the state here. So you can go to the FortiConverter and then you will see what's the state of your ticket. So we didn't start here, but if it started, then you will see it's in progress or something like this. Okay. Good. Okay, hope this answered the question. There's another one. What's the difference between community.fortinet.com and answers.fortinet.com? Good question. The answers.fortinet.com is just a forum, and I do not think that this one is moderated. The community Fortinet.com portal combines a lot of stuff. There's a forum, there are knowledge bases and so on, and I think they are a little bit more moderated, but I do not have a complete list of differences here. But the community, you will find much more, and the Forti answer is yeah, just to have a site for answering questions. I'm not sure if this one will merge somehow. Do not know, I'm sorry. Okay. Yes, okay, so thanks for asking so much. That's more interactive than just talking. And what's new in the dashboard as well, or something pretty new, is the shortcuts. You will have some shortcuts. If you're in the web UI and pressing Control P, or for the Mac users, Command P, you will get this. You will find some, let's say, you will find a direct link to, let's say, the system administrators. So it's just a link to one of the websites, to the menu here. You can click on, let's say, system administrators, or you can press Command P and you can start with administrators and then go to the same page. This is the Command P or Control P, and there's a Control Shift P or Command Shift P, where you can run some things, like for example, the IP lookup. You see? So now we can start with, let's say, 999, whatever. We can do an IP lookup. This is located in Switzerland, or Command Shift P, and then you can go to the packet capture directly and start a packet capture. Oh, the packet capture is a good one. I will tell you a little bit more about this in a few minutes. Okay, so some shortcuts which might be helpful for you: Control P and Control Shift P. Yes, for using with 7.4. Before I go to the next menus, I started here, before I go to the network and so on, just two more information from 7.2.4. This is the first one. I'm not sure if you know the maintainer account. I think so. The maintainer account is really helpful if you're losing your administrator password. If you're losing your administrator password, you have some kind of backdoor, which is the maintainer user. The maintainer user can be used through a console cable only through a console cable. So you have to be on site on your Fortigate, and the maintainer user can log into your Fortigate with a password BCBB and then the serial number, uppercases for the FGT and the letters here. And then you're logged in. You cannot do anything, but you can change the administrator password. You can change the passwords of super user accounts. So yes, this is a backdoor, and you were able to disable the maintainer account in the previous version, but with 7.2.4, this maintainer has been discarded completely. So there is no maintainer user anymore. No chance to recover an administrator password anymore. So if you have lost your admin password, the only thing you can do is format the flash and reinstall. Or you do not have to format the flash, but you have to reinstall a new firmware version on your flash. So then the whole config, everything is lost, and you have a factory default Fortigate. So hopefully you have a backup, an unencrypted backup, because if you have an unencrypted backup, you can delete the password line from the administrator and restore this backup file. And then you have an administrator without a password with an empty password. But if you do not have a backup, happy configuration. Okay, so do not lose your administrator password, right? So we cannot recover it anymore. Okay, so this is something which has changed. And there's another change in 7.2.1, and I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure about this feature. It's a CLI feature, but I just want to show you that it is existing. So maybe we can have a discussion on this, if this is a good one or not. But let me show what I mean. We have a config system FortiGate, and starting with 7.2.1, we have a switch here, which is called auto firmware upgrade, enable or disable, which means you can configure that your Fortigate is upgrading to a new firmware version automatically. But it's only upgrading to patch releases, not to minor or major releases. So if you enable this feature and you're running 7.4.0 and 7.4.1 is released, then your Fortigate is upgrading automatically. Not immediately, because why not immediately? Because there are other switches. Oh, you cannot read this anymore, huh? Okay. How we are doing it anyway. So we have this auto firmware upgrade day. So you can limit the days when an upgrade should happen. Maybe it's only Saturday and Sundays. You can have a delay. Okay, wait for at least this amount of time before we are upgrading. So let's wait for 2 days at least. And you can have a start and an end hour. So you can define a time frame when the upgrade should happen. So you can say, okay, Saturday, Sundays between 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning. So this is a feature which has been released in 7.2.1 already. So starting with 7.2.1, you can use this feature. And I think this is answering the question from Jason as well. Huh? Okay, so just to emphasize, this is only for patch releases. Not for minor or major releases. Okay, cool. Okay, so these are some new features here. And with this, I'd like to switch to the next one. Network. So there are some new features for the SD-WAN, but only for BGP together with AD-VPN and so on, some minor things. I do not tell about those features because I'm not sure how many people are interested in this feature. I try to concentrate on those features which are interesting for most of you. And so if you are running AD-VPN, just have a look in the new feature guide of Fortigate. There are some things which are really nice, but I do not think that many people are needing those new features. But what might be helpful, this is important, especially for me personally, is the diagnostic, the packet capture. As you might remember, we have a packet capture in the CLI, which is nice, but the one in the web UI is really helpful because it's a packet capture which you can run in real time and which creates automatically PCAP files, which can be opened in Wireshark, for example. And we have some new features here. So what we can do is we can run a new packet capture, let's say on WAN 1, and I want to have, let's say, I want to sniff on port 53, no matter if it's TCP or UDP on any protocol, and I can start this capture. So the nice thing here is that you can run several captures simultaneously now. So you can keep this capture running. You can make it a little bit smaller. Now it's still running. And maybe it's helpful just to give this a window a name. Let's say port 43 on WAN 1. Okay. Keep it running. And now you can start a second capture. Let's say I want to on my SSID, I have an SSID and I want to run a packet capture on the same port, because this is something you need in support very often. You want to see, okay, is a packet or a session reaching the firewall? And if yes, what is the outgoing interface and how does the traffic look like when it's sent to the next hop from the Fortigate? So is there any difference? Do we see that the packet is sent or not, and so on? So with this, I can run several captures at the same time. I can rename it as well, like port on SSID, something like this. Okay, so I can make it a little bit smaller. So now both are running at the same time. And how is this done? Pretty easy. If you have a look at the process list, like this one here, okay, you will find a process for every packet capture you're starting. So the HTTPS sniffer daemon is running 2 of them right now because I have 2 of them running. Okay. Okay, I can close this again. So, and the nice thing is, and this didn't work in 7.2, if you go to another web menu here like this, blah, 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 the packet captures are still running. They are stopping automatically once you're logging out, or you can also create a maximum number of packets. You want to stop automatically after 100 packets or something like this, but they keep on running even though you go to another website. Okay. Okay, so keep them running, just go back to the diagnostics. Okay. Yeah, when you are finished, now I have no DNS traffic on my SSID. That's okay. I can stop this, and then you can save this file as pcap. That's something we already know, and we can delete it. This one as well. Stop it and delete it. Okay, so, and what you see here are the recent capture criteria. So if you want to run the same sniffer again, you just can reuse it. Just click on it and you have the same settings here again. So this makes it really easy to troubleshoot sessions on your Fortigate, and yeah, especially to run several packet captures at the same time. This is something that me as a support guy helps a lot. Okay. So this is my favorite in the network tab, my favorite new feature here. Okay, so nothing more in the networking tab. Let's switch to the policies. Firewall policies, yes. Yeah, it took a long time, huh? I've tested something. So what's the big new feature here? Nothing you can see on the first glance, but if you're looking a little bit closer, you can see that you have 2 layouts here. You have the old layout, the classic layout, and you can switch to the new layout. Those layouts looks more or less the same. If you switch, doesn't look quite different. The thing is that the new layout has been completely redeveloped, especially for large firewall policies. I'm not sure if you are running large firewall policies with thousands, tons of policies. Sometimes this took a long time to have these policies on the screen, and to improve this, to speed up the policy tables with a large number of policies, we have this new layout. This layout should be faster than the old classic layout in showing up big firewall policies. I have tested this, to be honest. I have created a lot of policies here, and yeah, a lot of policies, but in my opinion, I'm not sure if I need more or a little bit more complex policies, but for me, it takes the same time, more or less. I think it's 5 seconds for having them, no matter which layout I'm using, the old one or the new one. But maybe you have better experiences with real life policies then, so we will have a look at this. So I cannot see a big difference here, but let's check. Okay. Okay, so there's another question from Philip. Can you quickly show the debug log flow in the diagnostics? I'm curious how it looks and what info one can see. So this is nothing new, the debug flow. It's same than we have in 7.2 and I think also in 7.0. This is the flow command, debug flow, where you can see the processing of a packet, nothing more. So I can do in the end. I hope this helps in this moment. I just wanted to give you some more information to the new layout here, because there are some more changes for this new layout. Nothing specific or nothing major, but if you have the right-click menu, then you will see that the menu looks a little bit different. So you can have insert above or insert below. We had this feature before, but now we have small icons. And something which is really new, I just opened this one. This takes what we have this check marks here. So you can click on several firewall policies like this one and this one and this one, and then you can delete all of them, or you can set the status to disable to all of them at once. So this is what we can do with this check marks, or you can take this one and then delete it like this. Yes, and then 11 and 16 are going to be deleted. Now it's reloading, and test 11 and test 16 is not there anymore. So you can do some stuff for several firewall policies at the same time. Okay. So this is the new layout in contrast to the classic layout. So there's nothing more here, to be honest. Only one thing which I really like, especially for the small firewalls where we always have those memory issues, right? If you're using a small firewall, it often happens that you're running into memory issues. And one thing you can do here is a feature which has been introduced in 7.2.4. And this is the ISDB on demand. So if you're going to config system global, oops. No, I'm sorry. Show, we have this here. The Internet Service Database on Demand. By default, it's regular or normal Internet Service. It's standard or full, depends on the model, but you can set it on demand. And what I've already done this here on demand. And what this do is that the Internet Service Database is only loaded for those entries which are really needed. So as you can see here, all the entries have the number of entries 0. Once an entry is used, like this one, the first one, maybe you have mentioned this in my firewall policy. I have one firewall policy. I'm sorry. So like this. I have one policy where I use an ISDB entry like this one here. Then the entries will be loaded automatically, but only the one you need. You need. So this one is a nice one if you're fighting with a high memory load usage and you want to use the internet service. Just keep it on demand, and then it's just loaded when the entries are just loaded when needed, like this one here. Okay, cool. So yes. Now I finished the firewall policy. Sorry, Philip, I come back to your question, but I just do not want to run forward and backward. Philip asked for the diagnostic debug flow here. This is the debug flow command, which can be started in the web UI as well. So I'm not sure, I didn't prepare any demo. Let me think about what I can show. I will try something like this. So the flow command is something where you do not see that a packet is arriving, but you see how a packet is processed. by the firewall. So if you are running a packet capture, for example, and you see that a packet is arriving at the firewall, but the firewall is not forwarding this packet, and you cannot understand why the firewall is blocking this packet, then the debug flow might help you, because the debug flow shows you how this packet is being processed and what is blocking this one. Maybe a routing issue or a policy issue, or maybe AV is kicking in or IPS is kicking in, something like this. And you can use this with a debug flow command. Normally I'm using this in the CLI, but we have this in the web UI as well. So I'm starting this debug flow, and what I'm doing in background now is pinging the firewall, just the firewall, ping 194.198.1. So, and now we are seeing the pings arriving here. In the beginning, this is a little bit difficult to read. I'm stopping the debug flow right now, and now the informations here are processed to a better look and feel. But what we already see here is that a packet arrives from my IP to the IP to the Fortigate itself, type 8 code 0. This is the echo request. The firewall is allocating a new session. The routing kicks in, but in this case it's local traffic, so it's the destination is the firewall itself, so we do not have an outgoing interface. And then nothing specific is happening here. It's routing via route, which means it's a local traffic. And then somewhere you should see, in this case, because the ping has been answered for me, that there is no deny or blocking message because the ping has been answered. So we only see one packet here because, oh no, it's still running here. Now we have everything in a more formatted way. Okay, so here you will see all the information to all the packets. There's no blocking here. As I said, it's a little bit difficult to read in the beginning. You have to find the interesting stuff here. And then you will see the other packets. So for each packet, you will see one block here. And the most important block is the first one where the new session kicks in. So if you need, want to run the debug flow, try to catch the very first packet of the session, because all the magic is happening at the very first packet of the session, routing decision, firewall decisions, and so on. So try to find the first one, because in the further one, there are no more information or no good information. The helpful information are in the first packet. Okay. Okay, hope that answers your question. Are you already confirmed? Perfect. Okay, so sorry for the sidestep for the diagnostics here, but if you're asking me for support questions, I cannot let you go without an answer, because this is what I'm doing the whole day of my, the whole time of the day. And I really love the diagnostic stuff on the FortiGates. Okay, cool. Okay, so I've shown you the new policy and the ISDB on demand. This is what we have here. So let's go ahead. With the security profiles, there's nothing specific, only small stuff, inline scanning, we already know from 7.2 and so on, and some check boxes has gone to the CLI and something like this, but no real new features. So I'm skipping the security profiles and go to the VPN. And even here, not very much feature. There are some for the AD VPN, as I already mentioned, but there's some cosmetic change for the SSL VPN. So if you're running an SSL VPN in web mode with 7.4, and let me demonstrate this one. I have another firewall with a SSL VPN configured with 7.4. You will see a new login page. The login page has changed, and not only the login page, also the I hope this was the right one. The landing page So if you go to the landing page, you will have a new look and feel here, a little bit more modern, more colorful. Color. There are new themes. So if you like the night mode, you can switch to the night mode here as well. Or if you prefer some marine, some blue colors, you can go to this one. So, okay, this is what is new here. You have the history here, we know them, but now it's on the drop-down menu. You have different themes you can choose. So nothing new, just a new look and feel. You have your quick connections where you can go to an internal blam, 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 blam. Oops, I'm sorry. Like this, 192.168, 192. There's another Fortigate, an internal segmentation Fortigate behind this Fortigate, and I can reach this with a web UI here, with a web request. Launch now. So this is just a quick request, but the nice thing is you can use this one, the quick connection tool, to create a personal bookmark directly in internal segmentation firewall, something like this. Okay, and once you have done this, you will find this one here, internal segmentation firewall. So you can use the quick connection and create personal bookmarks automatically as before. So we have the predefined bookmarks and the personal bookmarks. You have some CLI stuff, which is a little bit more comfortable than before. So I've created an SSH bookmark here, and I can log in if there's no credential in the bookmark configured. You have to type them, and then you get into the SSH page of this internal firewall. Okay, so yeah, just looks a little bit more modern, or not old-fashioned. That's what has changed for the web mode SSL VPN in 7.4. Okay, but there's one new feature which is not highly technical, but sometimes it might be helpful. So let's say, let me switch to my slides to demonstrate this a little bit easier. Let's say you have a Fortigate with the SSL VPN mode, and internally you have an intranet server where all your internal web applications are hosted for some reason. So this is something you want to have a landing page for your SSL VPN users so that they will get automatically to your intranet server once they opened up the SSL VPN in web mode. And this is something which has been is a feature which has been released in 7.4. So what you can do, let me go to this firewall. This is the firewall where the SSL VPN is hosted, which I'm demonstrating. So if I go to my VPN, to the portals, I have a new portal, a web mode portal, which I have called landing page, because here I'm using this landing page feature. So normally it looks like this. This is what we knew already from the previous versions, but we have this landing page option here where I can say, okay, I want to forward, or I want to redirect all the users to another landing page. So not the one we already know from the Fortigate, but to another URL like this one. So this is an internal Fortigate, because in my lab environment, I only have Fortigates, no web server, something like this. But the idea is that you can redirect your SSL VPN users to an internal web application server where all the applications are already hosted. So with this configuration, and just to show you, I have another user called Sylvia 2, which is a member, which is redirected to this portal, to the landing page portal. So let me do this. I'm logging out here from the normal landing page, and I'm logging in with another user. So I'm getting another web portal. So what is happening right now? I'm directly redirected to this URL I have configured in my Fortigate. So the idea is, creating an automated redirection for the users who are opening the SSL VPN in web mode. So they are directly redirected to a new landing page, not the one the Fortigate is offering, but another one from a web server from your internal network. So this is the landing page feature. So this is an automatic redirection of your users. Okay, cool. Okay, so what else? Radius, RedSec. Radius over TLS is supported with FortiOS 7.4. So especially if you're using Radius, your Fortigate is using Radius to confirm usernames and passwords. If this Radius traffic is running over the internet, you should make sure that this traffic is encrypted. And this is done by RedSec, which means Radius over TLS. Fortigate is supporting this feature now with 7.4. So you can configure a Radius server and change the transport protocol from UDP to TCP or TLS. TLS is encrypting. TCP is just changing the protocol from UDP to TCP so that we can acknowledge our packets, but it's not encrypting. So if you really want to have encrypting, just use Radius over TLS by choosing the transport protocol. Unfortunately, up to now, this is a feature we only have in the CLI, not in the web UI, which means if you're going to your Radius server, I have already configured a RedSec or a Radius server here. So we do not see that this is using RedSec Radius over TLS, but if you go to the CLI, you can configure it here. So transport protocol already set to TLS. It can be set to UDP, TCP, and TLS as seen before. Now it's TLS. When you switch to RedSec, the Radius port is changed as well to 2083. So make sure that this one is opened if you're using this one. And additionally, of course, you can configure some certificates and minimum TLS versions, but it's better to see here. You can configure the TLS minimum protocol version. By default, it's using the minimum version you have configured globally. So TLS 1.2. You can configure a CR certificate for the certificate from the Radius server because it's TLS. So the Radius server is answering with a web server certificate or Radius server certificate, which can be checked by the CR certificate. If the Radius server needs a client certificate for the RedSec request, you can configure this one as well. And you can create a server identity check, which is checking the certificate against the IP or the FQDN of the Radius server. So this is what belongs to the RedSec, the TLS configuration. So this is what's new in FortiOS 7.4 from the user configuration from this one here, the Radius server over TLS. Okay, so time is running. Let's go ahead. Yes, FortiAPs, I already mentioned this. No support for FortiAP-C models. So FortiAP 321C, 221C is not supported anymore. But I want to show you the new stuff. Forti switches, managed Forti switches. I'm not sure who of you, oh, I'm on the wrong device. Let's switch to this one. Yep, I'm not sure who of you are working with Forti switches. Sometimes you're using one or two, but sometimes if your whole infrastructure is using the Forti switches, then you have a lot of Forti switches here. As for us at BOLL Engineering, all our switches are Forti switches. I think we have a lot of them, 10, 12, something like this, 14. And if you're running managed Forti switches and you want to configure something in the CLI, this is always a little bit nasty because in the CLI, you have to use the serial number to configure them. So let's say I want to do something like config switch controller manage switch. Okay, edit. So Here I only have one switch, of course, in my lab environment. But if you have several of them and you have to choose one, which is the right one, this is really nasty that you have to choose the right serial number here. So a new feature in 7.4 is that you can rename the switches in the CLI. So what you can do here is rename this to, let's say, switch number 1, or whatever is meaningful for you. Okay, so the switch will be set offline for a moment, but come back immediately. And then you are not configuring the serial number anymore, but the name. So this makes it a little bit more comfortable if you have to configure LLDP or SNMP settings, which has to be configured in the CLI by just not choosing the serial number, but the name of the switch. So now I've talked enough time, I think. So after some time, you will see this renaming here as well. So this makes it a little bit more easier for CLI configurations of managed switch. And another feature which is new in 7.4 are the PoE settings. We have more PoE settings for the managed FortiSwitch. For a better overview, I have made this slide. So we have 3 new settings, not only with 7.4, but with 7.2.4 already. With 7.2.4, we got these 3 new settings, which is the port mode, the priority, and the port power mode. So with the port mode, you can configure the PoE mode. So if you're using AF, or if you want to have AT or BT power. So it depends on how much power you need. If you need 15 watt or 30 watt, or if you're using BT, which gives you more than 50 watt, you can configure each port directly which protocol should be used for this port. The port priority can be set to critical, high, medium, and low. Medium is not available on all models, but you can at least have critical, high, and low. And this priority is used if the switch needs more power for the connected PoE devices than the switch can deliver. So if more power is needed by the connected devices than the switch can deliver, then the Fortigate starts to give the power to the critical ports first. If there's still enough power left, then the high ports are supported. And if then is enough power left, then only the low ports are supported. So if there's not enough power, first the low ports are disconnected from the power, then the high, to make sure that the critical ports are supported as long as possible. So this is a port priority, where the PoE is allotted first to the critical, and then to the high, and then to the low priority ports. And the last new setting we have for the ports of the managed switches is the port power, but make sure that this feature is only available on the 100 switches, the small one, the 100E and the 100F, because this is something pretty nice. So the port power can be set to normal, to perpetual, or to perpetual fast. Normal means that if the switch is rebooted, the connected PoE devices are not getting power. Of course, that's the normal one. If you set the port power to perpetual, then a soft reboot keeps up the traffic on the port. And the perpetual fast keeps up the traffic on the port, the power on the port, even if you're doing a hard reboot of the switch. So a hard reboot on the switch will keep up the power on the perpetual fast ports. But make sure only on the one, this feature is only existing on the 100 switches. So this is a feature which comes up with 7.2.4 and of course 7.4. Okay. So no more questions up to now. Okay.
Sylvia, maybe
Yes.
something I would just maybe ask or add as a and remark this PoE port mode. I mean, the Forti switches, as we know, there are not so many switches which are capable to support the BT standard. So just because it's in the let's say CLI available doesn't mean that the switch hardware-wise is capable to provide the 50 watt, 60 watt power. So currently we have the M426F or FPoE switch, which is capable to supply the BT style of power. This is something I just would like to highlight. So I'm not sure if there are no new models coming. I'm quite sure, but for the moment, you just can provide what you have. Huh?
Okay, thank you for this update. That's really helpful and important. Yes, BT is a really new one, and we only have one switch who's capable. So if you have another switch, then you only can choose between AF and AT, but not BT. I hope so. But even if you can choose to BT, then it's not delivering BT power, of course. Okay, so that's the news for the managed Forti switch. Let's go ahead. System, we have already talked about this one. Let's go to the security fabric. And yes, I really love one thing in the security fabric for years, the automation stitches. I really love the automation stitches. And we had some news for the automation stitches with 7.4 and also with 7.2.1. Let's have a look at the triggers. So on the first glance, the trigger seems to that we have much more triggers than before. It looks a little bit, the list is much longer than in 7.2.0, but there are not so many new triggers. It's just that they are all listed here. That's all. So one new trigger we have here is the license expiry notification. So if a license is going to be expired, you can create a stitch which is notifying you in some ways. So for example, you can create a stitch, create new license expiry warning. Okay, I'm sorry. Whatever. It's killing me. Okay, let's look for the license trigger, license expiry, this one, and apply, and then an action. So maybe I want to be notified by Teams in my Teams notification. Okay, so now if a license is going to be expired, then I'm getting a Teams expire warning notification in Teams. By default, you're getting this warning 14 days in advance, but you can set this in the CLI if you can set it up to 100 days in advance, I think. So the license expiry is new local expire. I'm sorry. I meant this one. This one is the new one. I'm so sorry. I'm getting confused. The local certificate expiry. This one is the one which is getting new in 7.2.1. Another thing which is new, it's not really new. So maybe you remember you can create a trigger based on a specific FortiOS event log. And if you want to do this, you have to choose here the right event log. So this is a little bit uncomfortable to do it in this way. So what is new is that you can go to your system event logs. Let's go to them. Or let's make a short example. I'm logging out. Logging in again with the wrong password, then with the right password, with the right one. Okay, just to create this Yes, that's okay. So now we have this warning here. Admin login failed. Okay, so what we can do now is with the right mouse click, create an automation trigger automatically. So depending on where you are, you can create an automation trigger on this log message directly. So on this one, I think is much more easier. Admin login failed. So you have the right log event already chosen here. You can add more fields. So maybe you just want to have a notification if the admin tries to log in, nobody else. And once you have saved this and you go back to the automation triggers, you will have this one, admin login failed, the one I created right now. And you can use it for an automation stitch. Okay, so this is something which is new in 7.4. This is a 7.4 feature. Okay. Yes, with the actions, we have some new actions as well. The system actions. So there are new actions here, which have been introduced in 7.2.1. 7.2.1 introduced those new actions. We have a backup config, a reboot, and a shutdown. Ooh, be careful with the shutdown. Huh? We have this reboot and a backup. The backup is really nice. So what you can do is creating a new stitch. Oh, a new stitch, which creates a backup daily. We have the scheduler trigger, right? You remember the schedule trigger? Where is it? I have to create it first. Sorry. No. Go back. So where's my scheduler? Create new schedule here. So let me create a daily schedule. Frequency daily, 0 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever. Okay. And now create a stitch with this daily schedule. I already have one. Doesn't matter. Okay. And make a backup. So the question is, where's the backup going? Okay, let's do it. Action backup config to disk. Yes. Daily config backup. So I have already configured such a daily backup before yesterday, because there where I need the other daily schedule. And what is happening with this is that you're getting a backup to the revisions. Oops, sorry. To the revisions here. This is done by the daily backup automation stitch. So it's a local backup. This is a nice one because you get an automatic backup, but if the Fortigate is crashing, of course, if you do not have access to the flash anymore, then you do not get access to the backups anymore. But at least it is some kind of having some daily backups, configuration backups here. And you can see the details, can download the config file from here. So at least you have some kinds of backup which can be created automatically. Okay, just as an example, how to use these new actions from the automation stitch. Of course, you have the reboot and shutdown as well, which can be used. So maybe you can combine the trigger. If an admin user failed to log in, I'm shutting down my firewall. No, you shouldn't do this, but you know, it's just a possibility. So there's another question to the daily backup. Can you create automatic backups with SCP to another host? Yes, you can do it by a CLI script. So you have to create a scheduler, a daily schedule, and then the action is a CLI script where you use the CLI commands for exporting a backup to an external host. That I think you should find the CLI commands for this somewhere in the internet. Just search for it, but this is possible as well. Okay. Cool. So that are the new automation stitch features we have. Let's go ahead. The fabric connectors. Maybe you have already seen this with 7.2.4. This page is completely redesigned, so it looks completely different than before, but the same information than before. So we have the core connectors, the security fabric configuration, the central logging configuration to the analyzer or to the cloud, and the connection to FortiClient EMS here in the first row. So here you can also configure the remote logging. So just go to Edit, and then you will have the FortiAnalyzer and the cloud logging here. So you can configure the remote logging for the analyzer or the cloud here. You will also see the daily, if you're doing this a little bit longer, the daily log amount, the daily log traffic you have sent. This might be really nice for to know how much logs you have per day. Yes, and this is what you're configuring here. So FortiAnalyzer and cloud log configuration is done through the fabric connectors now, starting with 7.2.4. You have some more connectors, the FortiManager connector, the Sandbox connector, or other connectors. Just click here to get more connector like FortiDeceptor, FortiNAC, FortiTester, and so on. If you want to configure more connectors. So looks a little bit different, but nothing really new. Yeah, and last but not least, time is always running past, for logging, which is new in starting with, I think, 7.2.1 is the new look and feel on the logs. So if you go to system events, for example, you will have a summary page here starting with 7.2.1, where you have a summary on the time frame, which can be 1 hour or 24 hours. Then it takes it a little bit because now I'm pulling the logs from the FortiAnalyzer. You will see when you have a specific log amount, at which time. You will have an overview of all the different system events, like the general system events, switch events, which are happening most often in this time frame. So you can directly click on this switch, and then you will jump here to the dedicated logs. Let me do this, clicking to FortiSwitch, but with the right filters already. So you will get the right filters already here. Of course, you can delete them again and see all the logs here. This is how the log display has changed. Okay, the summary, overview of all the different logs, and then you can click into the logs directly with or without filter, so that you can get the detailed view on the logs. Okay. Yes, that's what I wanted to show, I think. So as I said before, there are many more features. Maybe some of them are interesting or not interesting for you. I just concentrate of the ones which I think most of you are using or maybe needing. But I think that's all for me right now. So I'm stopping. Sorry. No, I'm just stopping sharing. Okay. Okay. Yes. So are there any more questions from you? Yeah, the password mask. Thank you, Patrick. Okay. So yeah, as a summary from my point of view, I think in 7.4 there are not so many new features. Let's wait for 7.4.1 or 7.4.2. Maybe there are more new features. Just for your information, just sharing again, sorry. Just for your information, yes. If you want to inform yourself, if you want to get the new feature by yourself, you can use the new feature guide. And the new feature guide you find on docs.fortinet.com. And I just wanted to show you something in a in 7.2 because it's easier. You have an index here. And here you can click on the different patch releases to get the new features from this patch release, only the one which has been released in 7.2.1 or 7.2.4 and also 7.2.5. So the 7.2.5 feature, I didn't introduce this one because they are overlapping with the 7.4 new features. So some of the 7.4 features have been released in 7.2.5 as well. So that's why there's an overlapping, but I didn't change this one. All of them have been shown in 7.4 as well, shown up in 7.4 as well. So just to get the new information, the new features on the new patch releases here. Okay, this I just wanted to share. There's a question if there's what's new for the FortiManager. Up to now, no, unfortunately not. But it's a good idea, Stefan. I will discuss with Markus, my colleague, who is responsible for the FortiManager. So maybe we will do a short session on the FortiManager. I will note this. Thanks for this question or idea. Okay. So, any more questions from your side? Okay. No? Okay. So in this case, hey, thanks so much that you have been here, that you have joined us. I hope there have been some interesting features for you. If not, maybe we will find some more in 7.4.1, we will see. Anyway, I hope this was interesting for me and say thank you. Hope that you will have a great rest of the day and a great rest of the week. So Viktor looks like he wants to say something, so I will stop.
No.
Okay,
No.
So thanks from my side.
No, I would say just thank you, Sylvia, for all these details. And I'm sure there are a lot of things you will discover by yourself. And please share with us your experience. If you have any wishes for additional morning session topics, you are heartily welcome to present or invite us to make us our thoughts and present it to you. There are always things which are ongoing, so please check out our BOLL site. You will find by side of our official trainings also our events, which are a pack of different topics. We make on a regular basis some updates also for new employees, as well as this kind of morning sessions. And thank you very much for your time and your patience with us and your interest. And I would say I wish you have a gute miteinander.
Also, ein gut miteinander. Ciao, bis zum nächsten Mal.
See you next time.
Spätestens in einem Jahr.
Bye bye.